Gentlemen, welcome back to the shop. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. I've been absent for almost a month. Sorry about that. Threw my back out and had to take about a week or so to get that better. So that's feeling good now. And work's been busy. I'm self-employed, so when it rains it pours. Being busy though, so that's good, making money. A few things to talk about today. A lot of stuff has happened. I've just had, little bits of time here and there to work on it, so didn't really film much while I was doing it, but I got a whole list of stuff here to talk about. First thing, harness. So harness is actually pretty well buttoned up. I'm charging the battery right now, but so I gotta wire my alternator up still, but as far as the rest of the harness, pretty much done. I got some AC stuff here that's not hooked up that I don't know how to hook up, so I gotta research that a little bit so I can actually have air conditioning in this thing. But the harness is pretty much done. You'll like to hear this. I like hearing this. That's pretty sweet. No fuel in it. Fuel tank. That's the next thing we need to talk about. So you can see my fuel tank is installed. So I built the fuel tank. It's 31.6 total volume. I'm hoping to get about 30 gallons usable out of it, 29 to 30, hoping anyway. I sealed the inside of it, and I used this stuff right here. This is from caswellplating.com. It's a two-part, like a kind of a epoxy sealer for the inside of the tank. A raw steel tank like that, with all the moisture that's in the gas these days, it'll rust like crazy. So I actually had to buy 2 of these kits. You can see it comes in 2 cans there. I had to buy 2 of them. The single kit will only do a 20-gallon tank, and so I had to buy 2. But it's nice and coated on the inside. So that's done. Tank is in. I actually just wired the fuel pump and the fuel sender tonight, soldered the connections and shrink wrapped everything, got that all done. So that's all done. I also ran new, if you can see it right down here, so I ran new steel 3/8 fuel line front to back. I didn't want to use, I think the factory XJ one is 1/4 inch maybe, so I wanted to put a big fuel line on there so that I wouldn't have any fuel delivery problems. So that's run. Wheels and tires. So my buddy Andrew, my neighbor, he is selling his XJ, and he had these grabber red letters on his rig with ravines, and I had those black soft 8s with BFG all-terrains, and so he said, hey, let's just swap and then I'll sell my Jeep. So that was pretty awesome. Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it. Let's see here. Power distribution center. So a lot of the guys that do LS swaps in general kind of go and buy just a basic relay and fuse block and put in there. I decided to run all of my stuff through the factory power distribution center just so that it'd kind of give it a factory look. I didn't want a separate relay block sitting anywhere or fuse block sitting anywhere. So if we look at this, so this is the factory cover that goes over that, and so the starter and the fuel pump both go through the factory starter and fuel pump relays in my distribution block, and then I have a schematic somewhere that I did, and so some of these fuses here I repurposed and made them work with how I wired this thing up. So you saw last video, I think it ran, so it seems to work. Anyway, power distribution center is all wired up and ready to go. Wiring is nearly there. I got a few more things to do, kind of clean some stuff up. you know, kind of make it look nice. And then as far as the AC lines, the extra AC lines that are hanging out over there, I have no idea how to hook up the AC, so I'm going to have to research that. Transcooler lines, so the transcooler lines are, I'm just running rubber trans line up to the front, and I've ran them along the block and kind of up to the front, but I've got my cooler over here, which is this one. I think I've showed that before. I got to make brackets for that and then kind of figure out how I'm going to run the lines in this front part up here. Shouldn't be too bad though. Actually, I bought, let's see if I can find them here. Yeah, so I bought some of these Hillman rubber clamps, and I've just been putting 2 of those and kind of running the line through 2 of those. I've got 2 or 3 sets of these underneath to kind of wrangle them together and make sure they're not flopping around. I do have to find some kind of a heat wrap or something to wrap around them on one spot where they're kind of close to the exhaust on the passenger side, but shouldn't be too bad. Let's see. Oh, powder coat. I got so I went and had a bunch of stuff powder coated. My intake box had powder coated, which turned out pretty nice. You can't hardly see it in there, but I had my power steering bracket powder coated, and then you really can't see them, but I had my motor mounts powder coated too. Wasn't too bad. It was like 50, 60 bucks or something to get all that stuff powder coated, so that was pretty cheap, and it looks nice. So, oh, and speaking of motor mounts, one of the guys, sorry I can't remember your username, I'm out in the shop right now, but one guy brought it to my attention that I actually put my motor mounts on wrong. They're flipped side to side. My holes I've got in there are vertical, and they should be running horizontal. So I haven't tried to flip those around yet. I don't know if it'll work or not, but whatever your name is, thanks for pointing that out to me. It didn't even dawn on me that I was putting those on the wrong way, so thanks, bud. Oh, I think in the last video I showed a Jeep Liberty cable shifter that I was going to try and use, repurpose for this thing for the transfer case. I ended up not using that. I ended up, the Novak kit was less than I thought it was. I thought they were like $250 or $275 for the Novak transfer case shifter, and it was like 179 bucks. And so at this point in this build, I'm like, whatever, I'm just going to buy that because it's going to save me some time building brackets and stuff. So although their bracket is made to go, the bolt pattern on their bracket on the transmission / transfer case side is for an AW4 bolt pattern, and I have the 4L60E bolt pattern is where I can bolt the bracket on. So I actually had to re-drill and kind of cut and modify the Novak bracket to get it to work, but it seems to shift okay. And I along those same lines, I got the rest of my switches mounted in here, so you can see I've got one micro switch to tell me I'm in 4-wheel drive, and then the second switch here is to tell the GM computer that I'm in low range, which is necessary for shift points and everything, because my VSS is on the tail shaft of the transfer case and not on in between the transfer case and the transmission. So anyway, but the Novak shifter seems to work pretty good. I know that I didn't shift it right there, but it seems pretty smooth, that cable shifter, and it's bent pretty tight, and it seems to shift pretty nice, so not too bad. Oh, and then for my temperature gauge on the dash, so I went to who is it, Autometer makes this little adapter right down here. So I have a temp sender on that side of the motor, but that's temp for the computer, and so I bought another temp sender just strictly for the gauge and the gauge cluster. So this is my temp sender for the gauge cluster over here, and it comes in a kit so that you can, it's got a couple of adapters and stuff that you can put in there so that you can adapt it to, anyway, it comes with everything you need, and it was cheap too. It wasn't, I can't remember, 20 bucks or something. It was cheap. So Yeah, so that's done. What's next? What do I have on my punch list over here? So I've got, I got to build transcooler mount, I got to build a radiator mount, exhaust actually, yeah, that's the next biggest thing. You can see I've got a bunch of exhaust shit sitting here next to my beard. So that's the next thing I got to do. Is I've been kind of trying to cut and splice, but on mine, so a lot of guys, and I'm sure I'm repeating myself, but a lot of guys run their exhaust from on the driver's side back and then underneath the bell housing of the transmission. And I took my springs out and I cycled my suspension, and there's not even close to enough room in between the drive shaft and the bell housing to run my exhaust through there. So I'm having to run it down the frame rail, the unibody rail on the driver's side, and then I'm having to cross over at the transmission cross member. So anyway, it's kind of, and then I got to leave enough room for drive shaft droop at the cross member, and I don't know. It's that's going to be the hardest part. The passenger side is like a straight shot into the Y pipe, and then running it out the back is going to be pretty easy because I've got a couple of, so I've got two 3-inch 90s there, and then you can see underneath all my beer cases here I've got my MagnaFlow muffler and high flow cat, and then I've got a bunch of 3-inch stuff over there that's got a bunch of like 45 bends in it and stuff, so that should be pretty easy to run it out the back. So really the hardest part is going to be doing the driver's side and the crossover over to the other side. And I'm putting the 3-bolt flanges in on either side of the basically either side of the engine compartment, or kind of down at the bottom of the downpipes. And then I'm doing 3-inch flange on the front side of the cat, and then the back side of the muffler, so that I can kind of take everything apart if I need to. So anyway, that's what's going on in the shop here. I know that this isn't very exciting, not watching me actually build something, but I filmed myself painting my gas tank, I think. It's true, I was going to film myself doing the sealant kit and stuff, but let me tell you, you got to make sure that the temperature is right when you do that, because it says specifically in the instructions if it's much over 70 degrees ambient temperature when you're doing that, it kind of makes it a pain in the ass and it cures faster. I actually put a little bit of xylene. You can add a little bit of xylene to the mix to kind of retard the curing time or the kick time, extend your working time, I guess. And so I did that. I put 2 or 3 ounces of that in there and mixed it in real well and put it in there, and I waited a little too long to dump that stuff out, because I ended up having to pull all the tape off of all the open holes, and I actually was scooping it out with rags and stuff. So if you're going to use that Caswell plating kit, it's a good kit, and it seems like it covered everything really well, but man, make sure that your temperatures are right. Otherwise you're going to have a mess on your hands. I got that shit all over everything in here. I was putting xylene on the floor and wiping up big puddles of epoxy and stuff. It was kind of a mess. But so anyway, that's a good kit, caswellplating.com. So anyway, that's what's going on. Hopefully in the next video I'm gonna fire this thing up again and let it run, and that's something I gotta do too. So my hopefully you can see up in here, I got blue tape on the water pump. So I'm gonna have to kind of get creative with my radiator hose on this side. I'm gonna have to put a couple of 90s in there, and then I'm thinking I'm probably gonna I'll do 2 rubber 90s, and then I may end up making a little adapter to go in between those, so there'll be 4 hose clamps around that area, but that should be okay. And then this side should be pretty easy. It's just a 90 up and then like a 45 over ish kind of. So, and then run my heater lines up to the heater core. So that's where I'm at. As soon as the exhaust is done, hopefully I can get that done in the next, I don't know, week or 2 weeks, maybe tops. Then it's on to building mounts for the radiator, mount for the transmission cooler, and then I still got to kind of figure out how I'm going to do my condenser for the mounts for the condenser to go in the front, and then I'm actually going to have to. So here's me going off on a tangent again. So I bought some adapters to these are, hopefully you can kind of see those. These are threaded adapters, so they come with gaskets and everything, and this goes in the GM air conditioning compressor, and then these are threaded connections here that you can connect your AC lines to. So I think I'm probably going to have to have some custom AC lines made, or figure. I know you can buy kits to do it, but I don't have one of those crimping tools to crimp the ends. So I'll probably end up kind of figuring out what I need to do, and then I'll just take them. I think there's a couple places in town here that will do the crimping for you. So I'll get that figured out and get the lines on and everything, and then, you know, figure out the electrics too. The electrics are going to be the hard part of that, I think. So anyway, it's coming along. Looking pretty good. I'm glad that my harness is getting done and I'm making some progress. It's been, I never dreamed that it would take this long. I've been working, I pulled a motor out of this thing in February of this year, of 2016, and it's now July 15th, I think. So yeah, I've been working on this for a while, but I'm trying to be a little meticulous, and I'm trying to document this with these videos as best I can, because I know that a lot of guys are thinking about doing this swap. If you are thinking about doing it, don't kid yourself. It's expensive, but it's going to be completely worth it when I'm done. So, you know, I was only getting like 12 miles a gallon with my 4-liter. This is going to hopefully be 18-ish, depending on how heavy my foot is. So I'm getting a mileage boost out of it, and my 4-liter was pretty tired, so I'm going to be like probably over double the horsepower and torque that I had in that thing. I figured even if I'm only getting like 15 miles a gallon, I'm still having that much power and torque on tap is going to be well worth the money to me. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate you watching. I know some guys from Reddit are subscribed, and I know a bunch of other guys subscribed too from some other places. So anyway, thanks a lot. I really appreciate you watching, and if you have any questions, throw them in the comments below. I'll try and answer them the best I can. I'm no expert, but you know, I can tell you what I've done on this swap to get it done. So anyway, thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.